so much better.
Really?
Right side up.
Now you're backwards to me.
No,
I see the back of your head.
no, you don't.
I can't help
You are, you are so full of it.
it. How you doing, buddy?
But you're looking good, Dan.
Well, I'm gonna be ready
Looking
to
at you,
play
it's
some.
like a blast from the past talking to you, man.
God,
I haven't seen you for decades.
I know. I was trying to remember how long it'd been. Probably at least 20, 25 years, maybe, or more.
More than that. I mean, I moved to Nashville in 90, I want to say 92,
Yeah.
and I haven't seen you since I moved to Nashville.
Right. So that's 28 years. God, it might have.
Not since the 80s, Dan.
80s, huh?
It's so, it's so wacky. I mean, it's kind of like I keep leading all these separate lives. Like I have my Nashville life,
Yeah.
I have my Austin life, the one life with Stevie, with Delbert, and with Jerry Jeff Walker. And there's like three different lives in Nashville, and then a life in Florida, and a life in California. So I keep
Yeah.
like a cat.
Kind of like a
One
Walter
life after
Mitty
another.
almost. Or what was that? The Illustrated Man, the Ray Bradbury guy that would. Anyway.
I
So,
remember the Illustrated Man, and you have been working with Jimmy Buffett this whole time.
I'm in. This would be 17th year.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Since the 90s, got about that time when you left, I got on with Bonnie and then Chris Isaac for briefly, John Hyatt a couple times, and then caught
Oh,
on with,
really?
yeah, what a guy. And then also caught on with, I'm going to say, Beach Boys then for a few years.
I would have never guessed that. Out of all the possible gig choices for you to pick the Beach Boys, that for some reason that wouldn't have been something I would have expected.
They've said,
I don't know. I don't know why.
they said, we have gigs and we'll pay you. And I said, this sounds like it's me. And then after that, after Carl Wilson died, then you'll never believe this one. It was Moody Blues for a few years.
Oh, really?
Yes,
I hear those guys were terrific.
they were. And,
A couple of really nice guys.
yep, I did John Lodge and the guitar player, Justin Hayward. I took care of them. And yeah, kind of different personalities, but still that English thing. And
Yeah.
it was an interesting time.
Well, the thing about those guys is they did all those gigs with the symphonies and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Symphony halls and with the full symphony and chorus and everything. I mean, what a production that must have been every night.
Yep, it was. Yeah, load out took a while. Load
I
in.
can only imagine.
Yeah. So I don't think I ever asked you or knew where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born in Pennsylvania, grew up in Florida. My parents had a house in Clearwater where I went to elementary school and I rode my bicycle all over town and they moved to Sarasota where I went to junior high and high school and started playing in the stage band there in high school with a very influential piano player, music teacher, Andrew Wright, who was like I said, big influence to me. So got to play, started playing in the jazz. Back then, you could take dance band in high school.
Really?
And so I learned to read charts. Yeah, I'd always been sort of a classical piano player, reading music and playing recitals and things like that, which is, just sort of a technical exercise to me.
Yeah.
Still is. I still play classical music.
Yeah.
But starting to play in the dance band, I was realizing that you could have feel and you could have sort of experiment around with the music and kind of do your own thing, and that was sort of the beginning of things. And Sarasota was when I went to my first ever rock concert.
Who was it?
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Oh, perfect.
Can you imagine an innocent kid starting out with the wild man, Jerry Lee Lewis, on the 4th of July in the Bradenton Armory, and him standing up, pounding that piano, his hair flying back, the firecrackers going off in the back of the hall. It was the wildest thing I've ever seen. It was just crazy. I loved it.
And that's what made you want to play guitar then?
Yeah. So I switched right over to guitar. Actually, I still don't know how to play guitar. I've tried to figure the guitar out several times, and it's just kind of complex for me. It's kind of like all those strings, like 6 keyboards piled on top of each other at varying intervals.
Yeah.
I can't. I just don't think that way.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I suppose if I would really sit down to it, I could figure something out. But I always have too much fun playing the piano, so I'm just going to stay with what came natural to me, which is keyboards. Everything
Really?
laid out in a row.
Was somebody in mom or dad play?
My dad played piano for us, like a lot of people did in the 50s. They would sit around and play the piano, play schmaltzy songs on the piano. He had an organ too, and I played songs on the organ. Sometimes my mother would sing along with him. It was real sweet, actually.
Yeah.
And her mother, my maternal grandmother, played piano in Sunday school. So bit of a musical background, but I'll tell you something. Lots of people that we know grew up with lots of blues and jazz in their house. I didn't have anything like that. They did not want to hear anything like that in the house.
Really?
You could play Eddie Arnold. You could play Lawrence Welk. You could play, I don't know if you even know who Lawrence Welk is, but you could play that kind of stuff, the Squaresville kind of stuff, from the 50s. Sing Along with Mitch was one of my mother's favorites,
yes,
too.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, yes, I remember, and he had the little, when he would direct.
Exactly, that's the move. I forgot about the move. That was the move.
Yeah, and Lawrence Welk. Actually, doing a Moody Blues gig, they ended up doing one in Branson at the Lawrence Welk Theater, and they have his golf cart in the lobby, and the front of it says "Wonderful, Wonderful." It has got.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but one of the features on the Lawrence Welk show was Big Tiny Little Junior, who would come out and play ragtime piano.
No, Big Tiny Little Junior.
Big Tiny Little Junior.
I got to look that up now.
Large man who would play ragtime piano, and sometimes their clarinet player, the great Pete Fountain, would play with them.
Wow.
So that was even with as cut and dry and professional as the Lawrence Welk band was, or their orchestra. There were tiny moments of pure joy in there, and
really?
for a little white kid who wasn't allowed to listen to rock and roll music, it was joy anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember it was 64 when the Beatles first on Ed Sullivan, something like that.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't allowed to watch that. I was like, I would have been 8 or 9, and had to sneak across the street to my friend's house to watch the Beatles to see what that was about. It was just screaming. You couldn't hear, the girls screaming and everything. What's it, but this must be forbidden because I ain't allowed to watch it.
Well, by that time, it was okay to watch Ed Sullivan, and he would have the new bands on every week.
Yeah.
And sometimes the sound was decent. You could kind of figure out what they were doing.
Yeah.
First rock band I ever played in was when I was in college. I joined a band called the Prowlers, and we would play frat parties. And I went to Florida State and bought an electric piano, a Wurlitzer electric piano.
Wow.
And a friend of mine knew this band who was looking for a fourth piece. Guitar, bass, and drums.
Yeah.
Looking for a fourth piece, just like I always did.
Yeah.
And so I figured out I could play those songs, and started jamming with the band, and we played these fraternity parties, and that was a big kick for me, man, to be able to play music live. Played dance parties at the Quad, and actually won a battle of the bands with that group, and got to open a show for the Byrds.
Wow.
who were an unbelievable band. They had
Yeah.
just come out with their song 8 Miles High.
Yep.
And so I thought, man, they are so loud. How can anybody play that loud?
Yeah.
We just had our little bitty amps, and playing all our cover tunes. There were some other great bands in our college too. The 1%, which was Scott Boyer, David Brown, and Butch Trucks, and who later went on to become the 31st of February and Cowboy, and some of those bands who were along with us up in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead in my life to a time where I had already played in bands for a couple of years after I left college, and ended up after meeting people like Dickie Betts and Barry Oakley, Larry Reinhardt, and Richard Price, and others in Sarasota playing around the clubs around that area. A lot of my friends put a band together and moved to Jacksonville, where they formed the Second Coming, and Dickie's wife, Dale, was the organ player with that band. Well, when Dale got pregnant, and about time for the baby to come along, they wanted somebody to fill in on organ, and so by that time I had already bought an organ and learned how to play it, and so they called me up. So I moved from Sarasota to Jacksonville and started playing with the Second Coming, and they were a pretty cool band.
Yeah.
If you can look on YouTube for the Second Coming, you can find a very young Reese Wynans playing with Dickie and Barry on "I Feel Free," that song by the Cream.
Wow.
We had our own version of that song, and we were successful. We had a 6-night-a-week gig at a place called The Scene, and I got to describe this place for you. No, you've never seen anything like this. So you got a little bar in the back with huge glass windows that you could see through. You could see all the seats, and way down there is a dance floor. And the dance floor had these flashing colors on the dance floor, flashing dance floor. And around all the sides of the club, there were these huge screens with liquid projection, like, finger painting and stuff. And then they had the mirror ball up top. And then way down there, you could see the stage. And the stage, at the back of the stage, there was a staircase, a spiral staircase that went down to the dressing room where we all hung out and got into our personal troubles back there. So we played there 6 nights a week, and the place was pretty much packed every night. There was this guy who used to come and sit in with us, after we'd been playing there for a couple of months. And I didn't know who he was. I guess maybe Dickie knew him, or Barry knew him, or somebody. But he was this guy who played slide guitar, had long hair, and would just started sitting in with us. As Dwayne Allman, and who had been working in Muscle Shoals, and he was still living in Daytona Beach. But he would go back to Daytona Beach. But on his way, he said he'd heard about our band, and he wanted to kind of stop in and see what was going on. Wow. And so we ended up jamming with Dwayne almost every weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool, man. So that's what I was doing in 1969, before I met you.
Holy cow, I was going to ask.
Before 68 and 69, about when you were being born.
No. I was, 69, I would have been like a sophomore in high school.
Okay, when you were in high school then.
Yeah.
And so we liked playing at the club, but what Dwayne and Barry came up with this idea where let's play on Sundays too. Let's go out to the park and set up and just jam.
Oh.
Which, when you're kids, you love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we wanted to play 7 nights a week. Who needs a break? When you're having that much fun. So we started doing these free jams in the park, and all the other local bands would come out and sit in with us too. So and we didn't have any permits or anything like that. We just did it,
Man.
And luckily we didn't get arrested or anything. So big fun in Jacksonville back in the late '60s.
Well, excuse me, I never got to talk to you much about where you got your chops. I knew that you could tell on some of your solos that you got there was some classical in there. I thought, man, he had to have started that way or something. But
Well, I'll tell you something. Back then, when I was playing with those guys, I wasn't very good. I modeled myself after my playing after Ray Manzarek, the guy with the Doors, and John Lord, the guy with Deep Purple. I like the guy with Iron Butterfly. The rock guys who played the Farfisa and all that during the psychedelic era.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about the blues or about jazz or anything back then.
Yeah.
I was just a kid, having fun playing in a rock band. And I learned a little bit about it. And the more I played, the more I listened and kind of figured it out. Eventually, the story goes on to say, well, Dwayne was really enjoying playing with Dickie and with Barry. And Butch would come out for the Sunday jams, Butch Trucks. So Dwayne had the idea he was going to form a band. Going to break our band up and form a band. And so I got left behind. Because he could have two guitar players, have two drummers, but he couldn't have two keyboard players in his mind. Wow. And that was kind of okay with me because I felt like I wasn't really very good back then anyway. But I was okay. So they formed the Allman Brothers. We put another band together. We called it the New Second Coming. And we continued playing. We started playing shows at the Beach Coliseum, and the Allman Brothers were just putting their band together. Sometimes they would open for us. There's another band that opened for us from Jacksonville too, called the 1%, and they later went on to be Leonard Skinner after they got their record label. God. So all that music was going on in Jacksonville. At the same time, down in Gainesville, Tom Petty and his band was just getting started. So all kinds of music in Florida during that time.
Man, I had no idea that much of it was going. So it had to have. Did it just like get in you then? All of a sudden, it's like, man.
I was ate up with it, Dan. Ate up with it. I couldn't get enough of it. The Blues Image was playing in Tampa. We would go see them. When the Allman Brothers moved up to Macon, I was a little disappointed. I didn't really like what was going on without them, so I left. But Dwayne was such a nice guy. He said he'd been doing this session with this guy in Muscle Shoals, and we wanted to put a band together. So it was Boz Skaggs who was putting a band together. Dwayne couldn't be in it because he was in the Allman Brothers. Yeah. So Dwayne recommended me as a keyboard player, which was pretty nice since I'd been left out of that deal. So I moved out to San Francisco. When you were a kid, you could do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You could just I can't do that now. Well, I guess I could, so I got to spend a couple of years in San Francisco, listening to all those California bands, and that was a big part of education too.
Yeah. So this is 71, 72 then?
70, 71. Stayed out there for about a year and a half, and I kind of liked it out there. But I'll tell you something: my wife didn't like it. She didn't like San Francisco. She didn't like Boz. And she said she'd had enough, and she left. So I toughed it out for a couple of months without her, and then I said, I got to go try to save my marriage. Yeah. So I quit the band. Oh. Quit Boz. My career would have been completely different if I would have stayed out there. Yeah. I ended up going on the road with a show band. We were playing clubs up and down the East Coast, traveling in all the equipment was in a truck, and we would take our cars and follow the truck around and play shows, play clubs like 4 or 6 weeks at a time. Yeah. 5 sets a night, 4 dance sets and 1 show set, 2 shows on the weekend.
Wow. Dang.
And
So,
so that's my background.
yeah. So after that, then when you left San Francisco, where'd you go?
Well, I went to after this bit with the show bands, which lasted about 2 years, I guess, about 2 years. I ended up back in Sarasota, playing at with a couple of guys from the band. The name of the show band was Pandemonium, and our lead singer Ellsworth had a gig out at the Rex Silver Dollar Bar at the Bradenton Beach, and so we put a band together. He had a band that he called the Royal Shaft, and so we played 5 nights a week at this club for about 2 years. And the funniest thing happened at this club, because we were all married when we started this gig, but 2 years later, we're all divorced. Every one of us.
God.
And so I was, my wife or ex-wife at that time was working at the club where I was playing, bringing her guy in there.
Oh.
And so I didn't dig that, I said, this isn't right, So I was looking for something else to do, and I had a friend of mine, his name is Dave Perkins, who had a job putting together a band in Austin, Texas, for Jerry Jeff Walker, who had just fired the Los Gonzo band. And so Dave called me up and said, "Do I want to come to Austin?" I said, "Well, I've never been to Austin, so I'll come out there and see what it's like." And that was about 74 or 75, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
And of course, Austin back then, I don't know, how long did you ever live in Austin? You always lived in Houston, didn't you?
I got there in about late 83 and left there in 90. So about 7 years there.
Well, I'll tell you something. Being a member of the Jerry Jeff Walker band and a single man living in Austin in the 70s was not such a bad thing to be. Not such a bad place to be at all. I ended up having a pretty good old time out there, and thought, well, this is for me. So I relocated totally to Austin and ended up living there for almost 20 years. Worked with Jerry Jeff for about 5 years. That's where I met John Inman. Because I also did some work with the Gonzo band.
Yeah, and by the way, I just talked to interrupt for a second. John, I talked to him. He said, "Hey," and that you were the best ever keyboard player he ever worked with. And he wanted to. He said, "Ask you."
Tell him to just shut up about that.
Well, his question was, "How you do that?"
That's what I was going to say to him. How does he do that? How does he make his guitar sound like a saw? It's those beautiful high, that volume knob thing that he does, man. It's my favorite song on your record that you did was he was doing that. Is that "People Get Ready" song?
Yeah.
And what a beautiful solo he played on that.
Yeah. That song, we didn't really have any kind of a set list going in. I've been trying for months to, hey guys, if you got ideas, send them to me. We'll start working on them. Nothing. And so the only thing that growing in plan that I had was Come in My Kitchen. I knew I wanted a slow start and then the thing and then go to the jump beat, at the end. That was the only thing. And the rest of them were just, okay, we need I promised the truck drivers a boogie for driving song. We need about a 10-minute boogie. We need about a 10-minute jazz song, And they would just somebody would start. Where was I going? Oh, People Get Ready. Derek and John, and I've got this on video, and I'm gonna have to find it and put it in where they're just talking, and John and Derek was saying, "Man, I love how you do that thing." And did you guys ever do People Get Ready? He goes, we might have done it at a sound check, but never at a gig. And just them talking about it grew into, like an hour and a half later, we had the cut, and it was, man, what a beautiful song too, the way they did it.
Oh, it's a great song. It's great to play on. But what John did to it, the way he treated that, was just masterful.
Yeah.
Just beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, Derek played beautiful on there too, as did Alan.
Yeah.
And so Derek and I actually had a band together. We did a bunch of instrumentals like that.
Really?
Yeah, the Big and Tall Band.
Really?
So we played around Austin in the '80s when I was working with Delbert McClinton.
Yeah.
We would take time off from the road, and Derek and I would go play at Antone's or wherever we could get a gig. And, so that was fun.
So where during all that time slot does the Ugly Jelly Roll fit?
Oh, well, I kind of skipped over a couple of bands that I played in. That was one of them, and the other band, of course, was Captain Beyond. Another great rock name, Captain Beyond. You can find that very rarely heard record that we made.
Those are two of the best names. I'm kind of.
It was our record was called Sufficiently Breathless, which I always called it Eat Some Fish for Breakfast.
and you told me about one other band that you knew of with the best name was Underarm Wildlife.
Underarm Wildlife was a band with Fuzzy Thurston and Joe Dan Petty, who played in Bradenton when I was working out at the Club Mary with Ramon. And our band that was the Bittersweet. Yeah, everybody had cool band names back then.
Yeah. Now, which band were you when you wore the cape and had the outfit?
Well, we don't talk about the cape very much around here, Dan.
Okay.
But if you must know, that would have been the Ugly Jelly Roll. That was my wife decided I needed to look a little bit more mysterious, and so she made the black cape to wear with my black pants and a black hat, and it looked very Dracula. Is that a word? Draculian, like Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can imagine the black cape, black hat man playing the organ. That was me.
Well, yeah, you're like 6'5", and you got about a 7-foot wingspan too.
Oh yeah, man.
God.
Scary stuff.
Before I forget, you played right-hand piano and left-hand organ, right?
Oh, I switch it around.
Okay.
Yeah, usually it's the other way.
Yeah. Okay. Because that was always like, man, you mastered that. While I'm on the organ too, your B3 settings. Now that's a secret you've never divulged to anybody that I know of. And I remember that, like with Delbert, we did a rental every day, and after the show, when on your last song, when you left, you would just zero out all the drawbars so somebody wouldn't know what your settings were, and they were amazing.
That's how ridiculous I was back in those days. Back when I was drinking heavily and under the influence, I would do ridiculous things. That was one of them. These days, there are no secrets because there are so many photos of me playing organ on the internet that you could see every drawbar setting I ever thought of, which wasn't any great secret, it turns out. But yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, it was amazing. How did we get along with a different B3 every night?
Well, and a new different CP70 too.
Man, and those things would go out of tune. Oh man.
Yeah.
But it was great to have them. It was great to have a CP70 because before that you were stuck with a piano with a helmet still or a Rhodes. Try to play 24 hours a day on a Rhodes. It just doesn't. Yeah. It's just not right.
Well, we got a upright. We'll just hang a 57 in there, and it sounds just like the records.
Hey, that's what Jerry Lee Lewis did. It worked for him, man.
Yeah. God, it was on. I've always wanted to ask you about Jerry Lee Lewis. That had to be just a life-changing experience too, from your background.
Were you there the night we played with them? We opened with a Willie show in Memphis, and Jerry Lee was there.
No.
And he was drunk, and he walked out on stage for the encore and went up to Bobby, Bobby Nelson, and she was playing the piano, and he reached around her like that and started playing. We're standing on the stage, with Pootie, trying to steal Lone Star beers from him, and watching us, and then we're looking over there at Paul English. Paul's reaching into his bag, pulling out the gun, and set it up on the tom, just in case, Jerry Lee was going to do something, because the guy's unpredictable, And you weren't there that night. I thought you were.
No, I was gone in the late '80s. I paid to go see a Jerry Lee Lewis show, but he didn't show up at Rockefeller's. Boy, now as long as we're talking about clubs, you talk about the Florida, Houston clubs, Rockefeller's, and then with Pete and Pat Sellon, they had the Bon-Ton and the what was that other one? One of the Satellite. But there was the
Satellite Lounge, yeah, and then there was another one where Stevie played all the time.
Fitzgerald's.
With the trio. Fitzgerald's, yeah.
Yeah.
With Delbert, it was in that Rockefellers. It was sort of a made-over bank building.
Yep.
And the sound was awful in there. I mean, it was just echoey and boomy, and I don't know, it's a weird vibe.
In the
but
dressing room,
the people in Houston were great, and that's what made that gig endurable was that the people there were so great.
Yeah,
and Fitzgerald, of course, was another great place to play.
Yeah, and then at Rockefeller's, the dressing room was the old vault.
The vault. It's that ridiculous, man. It just sounds ridiculous just talking about it.
Oh, it was awful because it was 2 stories and people all the way around 360, and just like maybe holds 500, 600, 700 people at the most. But man, it was so much great music was played there that just could have sounded better, I'm sure, but still it got played.
Well, we got to talk about our guitar players. We had Billy Sanders back then, and James Pennebaker.
James.
So a couple of great guitar players with the Delbert band, and Billy had his big 10-gallon hat and did his licks, and it was only a 5-piece band, a 5-piece band back then. Yeah. Not like now. Delbert has a large band now.
Yeah.
The guitar players in Austin then were along with Derek O'Brien and John Inman were Denny Freeman and of course Alan Haynes. You got both those guys played on your record.
Yep.
I played with Alan a bunch. I love Alan Haynes.
Yep.
I did a bunch of gigs with him, and every one of them I thought was spectacular. He's got that smooth style. He's got a great singer, and just I love playing with him.
Yeah.
And Derek, of course, we had our instrumental band that we kind of stretched out on a little bit, but we also backed up just about every blues guy that Anton Clifford would bring into Anton's.
Yeah.
And what a fabulous musician Derek O'Brien is.
Yes.
A man who doesn't get much recognition outside of Austin, but is matter of fact, Derek was almost in double trouble before I joined him.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they were, because Jimmy played on the Ron played on Couldn't Stand the Weather, and so they wanted to get another guitar player so they could do that part.
Wow.
So they hired Derek to come up and try out, but I think it was a manager decision. Was we can't have another guitar player, so it would have been fantastic, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Managers know the most about music of anybody.
You know how those managers are.
God. Where was I going?
So I've been lucky enough to work with all kinds of good guitar players, and we're not even mentioning Stevie, who, of course, is if not the greatest of all time, surely in the running for that.
Yeah, the best I ever heard. Man, he'd be playing this stuff, like look, in that crouch, kind of bent over, and you think he's got to be watching what he's doing, and he would turn. kind of rotate a little bit and facing me and Renee, and his eyes are rolled back in his head. It's like, holy shit, this guy's like unconscious playing. It's like it was all through him and everything. And God, the guitar was kind of like just an extension of him.
Absolutely. And the best musicians, they don't even think about their instrument at all. It's just a part of them. Some people say that about me. So how do you do that? Well, I don't even think about it. It's just you've been doing this for so long that it's just it becomes just an extension of yourself.
I saw a Clapton interview, and he said most all of us will play a passage and then have to think about what we're going to do next. Not Stevie. He just it just float like right before he fell out in Europe. We did a show in Paris, maybe 2 nights, and he was really, really drunk. And I've heard a lot of drunks play guitar, but I never heard the drunk guitar. The guitar was slurring. It was like he was, he was so connected. It was like, oh man. I don't know if you remember, Renee was opening and played Malaguena, and they was just leaving. They're whistling, which is not good apparently over there.
No, that isn't good.
And so I said, Renee, I'm kind of fun loving. I said, I think they want another one going back. So he did. And that was just horrible. And he did his song, Till There Was Mexicans. You remember? There were Drews. And God.
How can you go wrong with that one?
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. So, oh, God. Let's see here now.
The thing about, you can't talk about Stevie Ray Vaughan without talking about how he played, the essence of his playing, is the phrasing that he had on guitar. It would just go, it would just build and build and build on his soloing. Rhythming, he wasn't a great rhythm player. Not like, I think of Jimmy Vaughan as more of a great rhythm player. Stevie played pretty good rhythm though, and he would keep it going, and it was always exciting and fiery. But his solos were just ascending and glorious. Every song, nothing. It's hard, and you've heard a lot of great guitar players. I've heard a lot of great guitar players. Buddy Guy is a great guitar player.
Yeah.
And Buddy kind of is jagged. Eric Clapton is a great guitar player, and he's not as consistent as Stevie, I don't think. Joe Bonamassa is a great guitar player, very flashy. His solos are not as meaningful to me personally as Stevie's were in those songs. He just seemed to live the song more than anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah, it wasn't really. He wasn't thinking really so much as just kind of feeling, and it just came through. After all the years of playing and everything. But and he did have a really sharp sense of humor too, and it could be about himself too. But he didn't mind a joke, no matter who was.
Well, you were the jokester of the bunch, man, and you kept all of us laughing during those days.
Well, the Johnny Cash doing Jimi Hendrix songs.
Go wrong with that. It's a laugh riot every time. And for you folks out there on the internet, there is an actual video of Dan Cook playing Purple Haze with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble somewhere on YouTube.
I think it's called. You just told me about that today, and I looked. I thought, oh my god. It's like jams.
One of our more memorable sound checks.
Yeah, and it looked like because it was.
The other sound check. We used to always do songs at sound check. In fact,
because I had to.
I used to sing Stevie Wonder stuff at sound check.
Well, funny you should mention it because the very first day of recording for Live or Live Alive or Live Alive, I think Live Alive.
Live Alive, yeah.
Was a Sunday, and that Saturday night before I had gone to see Stevie Wonder, and so by the time you got in, your stuff was set up, and I had the bass. I was checking that, so I started just running all the bass lines, and we just started doing Stevie Wonder songs. All of them living for the city, every one of them. And about the time we're doing Superstition is when Stevie walks in, and he goes, "Don't stop, keep going." And he picked up a guitar and then started playing. Chris started playing, and it was like holy shit. And Steve goes, "Anybody know the words?" So Chris drove. He had a cassette at home. Drove home, got his cassette, and then we put it in a cassette player and just got all the lyrics that way. And a week later, it's on the album.
I thought you knew the words. I thought that's where they came
Oh
from.
no, I knew the bass line. But when you threw the clavinet, it's like, oh, and you play the shit out of a clavinet too.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
God, everything I didn't want to flatter you or anything, but I've got two favorite keyboard players in the world, and it's Leon Russell and you. And I think you
That's
might
pretty
have
good company for me, man. Thank you very much.
I think you've actually got a broader range than he did. Now, I wasn't aware just how fast his left hand was. Is that like a thing? Did he have
Leon Russell was the guy from from all the LA sessions. He played with everybody, could play anything, and played. Everything was perfect. And he put his bands together, and it was just the funkiest stuff ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he was unbelievable, and that voice, man, it was just like Southern Comfort or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There was a twang about it,
Yeah.
and it was just great, man. Delta Lady, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
That is just unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of that Pentecostal kind of playing thing too was just kind of gets you excited too.
Didn't he do a bunch of records with Freddie King?
Yeah, he produced him actually.
And that stuff as far as playing the blues, playing blues piano, that was some classic. Those are classic records, man. Pick those up.
Yeah, yep. Let's see here now. I'm gonna have to dig in my notes now. I should have made them bigger. Did Johnny Cash? Oh, the Johnny Cash thing. Yeah. Well, as a part two of that story, on that same trip to Europe, we're in Germany. It's some little place. Who knows what they used to have there? It's like, dang. There's these two white stone lions down in front, and he does the same thing. Here's a in the middle of Voodoo Child. It's like it's really small. Renee right there on the left, and he starts saying, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have this great new singer from America. How's Voodoo Child? Vamping with the little the beat there, or the lick, and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dan Cash." And I look at Renee and go, "No fucking way. No, I'm not going to do this." And Renee just shakes his head. He goes, "He's not going to stop until you do it." I thought, "Oh, he's right. Damn." So I go out and do, you guys switch into Purple Haze then, because I knew that, so I'd made up some lyrics for that. And do that. And thank you very much. And go, and remember, in the producers, the original, where the audience had just heard Springtime for Hitler, and they're just like, that was like this look. It's like, what in the hell did we just sing? Yeah. Was was das?
You wouldn't believe it if you hadn't seen it.
Yeah. I was there, and I don't believe it.
Dan Cash, ladies and gentlemen.
God. Oh, my God. So he didn't mind.
Man,
And
you kept us rolling in the aisles there. There's no question about it.
and he would change lyrics to songs. It just out of,
if there was one thing, just occurred to me that I would have loved to have done with that band, with Stevie and them, is I really wanted to, every time they played Voodoo Child, I left the stage. And it was because he played it so hard, he would drive his guitar out of tune. And when the guitar's out of tune and you have a keyboard there that's not out of tune, it sounds terrible.
oh,
And if he could have just, I would have loved to play that song with him, but I couldn't do it because of the intonation thing.
wow. Whoa. Okay, now you said, going back to your thing with the almonds, where you can have two guitars and two drums, but you can't have two keyboards. Now, actually, I've seen you in a setting with, what was it, six keyboards and a drummer?
Yes, you have. And by the way, all of a sudden that rule went away as soon as Chuck Leavell made his appearance.
No.
Suddenly there were two keyboard players, two guitars, two drums, or three drummers at that point, I think. So anyway, yeah, what were you asking about the piano rama?
Yes. At the, in La Zona Rosa, that was Marcia Ball and her husband, not Wick Fowler, son, God, the Fowler guy, son of the Chili guy.
I think name either.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of who the other piano players were.
Well,
I
there
want
was
to say it was Patterson Barrett, might have been one. Might have
Marcia.
been Nick Conley.
Yeah, maybe Mike Ramos. Maybe no.
Could have been.
Got at least one or two others.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Paul Piercy played drums on that one the night I went. I can't remember if you even had a bass player. Probably not. You didn't.
Oh
need
no,
one.
no, you would not want to be a bass player with that mess going on. would not have been a fun place to be.
Yeah.
But I did that a couple of times with Marcia, and Marcia is a terrific musician.
God,
very nice person. I really love her, and I miss her. And I don't get to see her very often. Occasionally she comes to Nashville, but I don't get to see her very often. Yeah, the piano rama was always a highlight of the year.
Yeah. Switching gears here, back to humor. You and Mark had told me about a thing you had done or heard of. I swore I heard it that you were the king of it, was the shower stack.
All right. Well, you can talk about things you do when you're really under the influence, and for some reason, back when I was a really young man and under the influence quite often, my favorite thing to do was to go in one of the other band members' rooms and I would just tear their mattress off their bed, stack it up in a corner, and I would take the blankets and go throw them in the bathroom, throw them in the shower or something, and it always pissed everybody off, but I thought it was just funny as hell. I don't know why. I don't know. It sounds ridiculous now. It sounds silly, but they sure paid me back plenty for doing that. But that was big fun for me at that time.
Well, in the way you had, is Mark Rutledge, and God, our buddy, if anybody hears from him, get a hold of either me or Reese if you know what happened to Mark, please. But anyway, by the time you guys are telling me the story, it had grown to where the legend grew that you could take every bit of furniture from the room and put it in the bathroom. And they would walk into an empty room. So I'm thinking, well, shit, that's a pretty high standard. Well, we're on one of those, at the very beginning of my time with Stevie, the crew, there was just three of us on the crew, so we rode with the four band guys and a road manager. So it was just 8 of us on the bus. So we pull into LA after an overnighter. And it's early, 7:30 in the morning, and they put your keys up on the front. As you wake up, you can get your key and go to your room. So I see Reese Wynans. I thought, I've probably been up for all night or two. So it was just the osmosis being near all that being messed up. I didn't actually do any of that myself. So anyway, I get the key, and it's the Sunset Marquee.
Of course you did.
No, until one of our buddies came along. God, and wow, we won't say the name, but so I get the key to your room. I go in, and it's like, okay, I don't want to go into put stuff in the bathroom, in the shower or anything. So I just took like the coffee table, the end table, the little dresser thing, turned them all upside down. Carefully, I wouldn't destroy it. And I looked at the bed, I thought, So it had a sliding glass door to a balcony. I thought, you know what? That mattress will fit behind that. So I put the mattress in between the sliding glass door and the curtain over it, and then remade the bed perfectly. I mean, I could get a job. It took me a long time, but on top of the box springs. And then it's like,
A well-crafted plan, man.
yeah,
They're the best prank ever.
and get out there and get that key back on the in the bus before you wake up. And then it's like your instructions for firecrackers: light fuse, run away.
Oh man, we pulled pranks on each other all the time back then.
Well,
And I don't think we ever really damaged anything.
no,
It
but
was
we
just,
got a letter
it
about
was
that.
just, yeah.
They charged $250 for the day for destroying the room. That's bullshit. And somebody is like, okay, they might have had to have another maid come help them write things back, but I think the maid found your mattress because you had called, and they came in. And
Well, they never charged $250 to me, Dan. That was when
No.
you overdid it.
Well, it
That's
went
what-
to Mark, and then it went to Mark, and he showed it to me. But I think the road manager paid it, whoever it was then. But yeah, it was like, but still, I thought.
So how many years do you have on the road altogether, Dan?
This would be number 38, 39. Dang.
That's a career, man.
Yeah, I am too old for this shit. I actually.
Well, I'm looking at about 54 years, and as a professional musician. So during that time, we've done all kinds of pranks.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of laughs. There's no
Yeah.
question about it.
Yeah. Now, sometime, when did you start getting to hang out with the Rockets? We went to a game or two. That would have been.
Well, that was your doing. You knew you had the connection with them, and I'd always been pretty much of an NBA fan.
Well, I
So
think-
I got you and I. If I'm not mistaken, you and I would go to NBA games on the road.
Yeah.
You know, I can recall seeing Dr. J playing up in where was it? Philadelphia or someplace.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he played for the 76ers.
Yeah.
I think they were playing Houston or San Antonio or somebody up there.
Had to be,
And we
yeah.
so we got to see him play, and going to the Rockets game, we had great seats, and we got to see them play. I still like to go to the NBA games.
Yeah. You get to watch any? This. Have you gotten to see any in the last year or so, like on TV or anything?
Not live. Of course, now we're in the pandemic. They don't have any crowds anymore.
Yeah.
The last game, I can't even recall the last one I went to. I think it was a game in Memphis, and I don't even recall who was playing. You know, not as eventful, but I always like the NBA.
Yeah. Now, Mark Proct might have been hooking you guys up too with tickets.
I believe it
because
was Mark Proct.
He knew David Nordstrom, DH, the equipment manager for the Rockets. Did you ever get to meet Rudy T back then?
I did not. No, I didn't.
He just got elected to the Hall of Fame in this past year, and is going in. Good guy, really good guy. I think we're gonna do one of these things here.
Oh, fantastic, man! That's great. He's had a great career, and he's very worthy of going into a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Oh, and we forgot one more band that you were with a great name was Titty Bingo.
Oh well, that's another group I played with the one and only Derek O'Brien.
Yeah.
And John Blondell and Freddie Fletcher, and of course our leader and lead singer and lead guitar player Dar Jamel, who of course organized it and named that band.
Yeah.
And I played with them for about a year. Brought Derek in, and I didn't think Derek would stick around, but he loved it, and I think he's still doing that.
Really? I've never heard him or a song. What kind of stuff was it?
Well, Dar is a songwriter, kind of a rock songwriter, but his own sort of rock. I wouldn't really call it heavy metal. You should talk to Derek, and I'm sure he'll have some demos that you can listen to. I personally don't have any demos. Their name sort of did it all for me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see here. I was going to say, if we got really bored or something, I was going to ask about imagining like the 3 or 4 worst instruments in maybe amateur hands combined, like in a group, like bagpipes, a clarinet, a fiddle, and something else. Do you have any suggestions for?
Well, as far as the worst sounding instruments, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with with anything that's not played well. You know,
Yeah.
it sounds pretty bad. Violin, when it's played beautiful, when it's played right, it's pretty beautiful, and as is the clarinet. But the ugly sounding instruments, I don't know. You can't go wrong with what's that? Australian
A didgeridoo?
didgeridoo. Yeah,
Didgeridoo?
that's kind of a pretty earthy sound. I always thought oboe is kind of a nasty sounding thing, and of course the bassoon is sort of a weird looking instrument too.
Yeah.
And then have your bass clarinet, which is kind of rugged.
So you're just down on woodwinds in general.
Oh no, and then your 6-string bass, you know, or your 8-string bass, you know, or any pretty much any bass where the bass player feels like he's the lead instrument, you know, is always the worst thing for me.
Yeah. 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 Let's see here now. Over the last year or so, how you been kind of occupying yourself with, like to not go stir crazy? Any hints or tricks you and?
Well, I'll just catch you up a little bit. You know, after Stevie got killed, I left. I lived in Austin for about 2 more years, and I moved to Nashville in the early '90s, and I've been here in Nashville ever since. Touring with Leroy Parnell and doing session work, and recently started working with this Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah.
And been doing that. I've been touring with Joe now for about 5 years, and made a bunch of records with him. And one of the things that Joe likes to do now, especially during the pandemic, is he takes off his guitar player hat and puts on a producer hat. And so we've done a couple of records with the Joe Bonamassa band, backing up different artists. We did one with Eric Gales, who really came out nicely. We just finished a record with Jimmy Hall. That's going to be a beautiful record.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some more of those coming up. So you know, the work is non-existent, other than you know, few spot things like that here and there.
Yeah. You do any walking or exercising any kind, or any kind of physical activity?
Well, I was trying to get out before it turned winter, you know, and winter kind of puts a crimp in my walking outside time. You know, it's all that chilly weather. I guess it's really not the weather is the problem. It's my clothing choices. You know, if you make the correct clothing choices, then the winter really shouldn't bother you.
Yeah.
You know, but I have a tough time actually making myself go there during the winter.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a downtime for me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to, you know, the sun coming out again, and getting when live music becomes something that everybody can listen to and enjoy, and you know, those will be the golden days when all that comes back.
Yeah. Well, you got over the past year a movie choice to recommend, or a book that.
Well, the last book I read was the autobiography of Barack Obama, which I thought was very good. A video on Netflix. What is the one about the girl who plays chess? Queen's
Gambit.
Queen's Gambit. Yeah, I thought it was very good. So as far as movies, of course, the theaters have been closed, so I haven't seen any movies in theaters for quite a while.
Yeah.
So all the things I like. they're not happening anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully we get back.
You know, of all the times to be in America, you know, we have to be in America right now where it's all closed down. We could have moved to New Zealand years ago, and we could be down there now going to sporting events. We could be in Australia, seeing Australian football, playing clubs, having a great time. But no, we're here in Nashville or Houston or Austin, basically doing nothing.
Yeah.
And by doing nothing, we're the heroes of the story because you know, we're not getting anybody else sick. So
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah.
just kind of hang in there and see this thing to the end, and we'll see what happens.
Yep. Well, wow. Anything else you want to add? This was.
Well, I want to say hello to my friends in that band, to Paul Piercy and to John Inman and to Alan Haynes, and especially to Derek O'Brien and Glenn Fukunaga. I love all those guys, and I know there's some more guys who played with it, and I don't know them. But I think so much of those guys. You had some great people on your record, and it's a beautiful record. And my stereo is working now, and I've played it a couple of times. So now I have the live Jay Giles band that I'm getting ready to go listen to.
Oh, now you surprised me when I talked to you last week after you'd heard it. You go, yeah, it makes me want to get up and dance. I thought, man, for a musician to dance, that's almost like a crew, like a roadie. Crew don't dance because you're just.
Well, you just kind of stand up. You just kind of move around just a little bit, you know.
I mean, it does
that's
that
all I do.
It does that to me too. I mean, it's just you can't really help it. It's good, you know, to motivate, do your housework and stuff, whatever. It's just kind of you can't really just sit there and without at least kind of bounce a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you something. During this dark time of the pandemic, you know, for the longest time, I didn't want to listen to music. So I'm starting to listen to again. Your record's helping me. So I'm listening to more music all the time. So
Very
so
cool.
it's a good thing, man.
Well, cool. Let's keep me advised what you're doing. If you got something to promote, anything coming out, just let me know, and we'll throw it on here.
Sounds
Anyway,
good, Dan.
God, Reese, I miss you so bad. It's God. It was. We had a lot of fun, and
Oh,
we were
Dan,
moving.
like I said, you were just a gas to be with on the road, man. I loved our crew, all of our crew.
Yeah.
But you and your weekly printout newspapers and your sense of humor. Thank you, sir. Thank you for making things more livable for us back then.
Well, and thank you, buddy, because for all the music, man, you made my life better hearing you play. It was like a real treat, and to seen it and heard it. So, and to know you, because you're a good guy. You're a funny guy, and
Funny looking. They say looks aren't everything.
And look, we did it, Reese. We got older.
No doubt about it, man.
I'm not through. I'm not through getting old yet. Are you?
No, we'll see what happens, man.
Hell, I'm not crotchety
So
yet.
far, so good.
I'm not crotchety yet. I'm waiting to get a rocking chair and a cane and tell them kids to get out my yard, to get out of my tomatoes. Don't make me come off this porch. Don't you know who I think I used to be?
You got a story, man. You definitely have a story.
Yeah, I'll be changing it as we go. Reese, thank you again. Enjoy. I love you, buddy, and let's stay in touch better.
Take care, Dan.
Okay.
Good talking to you.
You too, buddy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was very cool. Thank you, Reese.